Welcome to the IKBC Coaches Huddle. Fantastic to have everybody here. We've got a live stream on. I'm Coach Ollie from the Ivanhoe Knights Basketball Club. I'm the Coach and Player Development Director here. And the Coaches Huddle is our new resource that we're getting out to all our coaches. We've got 144 teams for the summer season playing in the EDJBA, the Eastern District Basketball Association. We wanted to create something so we could share some coaching philosophy and also help our coaches in some new and innovative ways. One of those ways is through our video content that we put out through our Instagram and Facebook. Another way is also to create these live opportunities for you to jump in, watch some videos, and then also record it for our podcast as well. I'm really, really excited about this new project and able to share this with these monthly subjects. And we're looking forward to getting it started. No doubt, as we begin this process, we'll get better and better at putting them together, but I'm excited nonetheless. Our first subject is about planning and season planning, and how do we plan for the season ahead? How do we also look at planning our training sessions as well accordingly? And really, when we look at the summer season for EDJBA, we're looking at now sort of from October with a break over Christmas, and then we're back in finishing up at the end of first term, heading in to that Easter break. So really, for a lot of our teams at a domestic level here in Victoria basketball, you're only really got an hour's training session with your players. So we're going to have to look at how we plan for that and what are the different phases of the season. One of those phases for the season here really for us is beginning from the get-go is what are those phases? What are the phases of the season? For me, I think there's a couple that are pretty stand out. You've got your grading phase for the season. So that's obviously that point, those first sort of 6 games where you're working out whether your team is going to be an A grade or B grade, C grade, D grade, respectively, and you're playing those games. Then you've got your in-season. So once the games start, once grading's been completed, and then you've got your finals, which I think tends to start a little bit earlier than you think preparing for finals. So for me, grading phase, really, really important that we're developing our team skills. We're playing games, they do count. They are important in regards to where the team finishes, but really, really important to develop our team skills in this phase. In season, then we can start, I think, really, we've got a bit of an idea of our teams as coaches now, having played 6 games. We can start to look at the different areas of player development we need to work on, and then we can start to add in a little bit more team strategy. Finals comes around. When I think of finals, I think probably about 2 weeks out from the finals. So we've got our playoffs. It's normally a first versus fourth, second versus third situation, singular knockout. Kind of want to start to think about that 2 weeks out and really put a strong focus on team strategy and your philosophy and making sure that's really embedded for when you get up to that final stage of the season. Deep dive into that grading phase. So as we said before, we've got our brand new team with us. We've got 8 players. We've just met them, especially this week. If you're with the Knights, we're in the first week of training. You've just met your players. It's a good chance for them just to get to know each other. I think this is a great time to be working on 2 and 3 player offensive actions, maybe some pass cut, some drive and kick, those type of things. You want to try to get some defensive drills. So maybe some 2-on-2, some 3-on-3, really get your team interacting, trying not to focus too much on team strategy at this stage because the team is very new and the games are going to be coming at you thick and fast. With our 3-on-3s and our 2-on-2s, we can put a little bit more of a defensive focus on them. So maybe the focus might be, you've got to get 3 stops before you get to change over onto offense, or maybe we're looking for a tipped pass and that wins you the next phase. Maybe it's a changeover that, if you get a defensive rebound, you can change over to the next phase. Lots of passing activities, get your team interactive, get them to start to know each other and how they move around. Really great example through our video here is, something like looking at what our drills look like. Are they a coach interactive drill or are they player to player drill? When I think of a coach interactive drill, I think of a simple, dribble at drive. So a dribble at pass cut example through our video here. Our coach is catching the ball at the point guard spot from the player. The coach is leading the drill. So they're dribbling and they're making the pass. I find these drills are really effective, maybe with a lower skill team or while you're trying to install something. That way, the coach has got a real control over the tempo of the drill and can make those great passes. Whereas our players, sometimes as they're developing between themselves, they can't always make those great passes. So we can introduce the action as we go along. Maybe with our older teams, we might start to get partners involved. Here in this drill, we're looking at, driving the ball to the wing, passing to the corner, making a cut, getting the players to start to talk to each other, interact more, showing hands, these types of things, big prompts on our actions for them. And then from these sort of drills, we can start to add in maybe one defender, two defenders as we go through. One of my favorite passing drills at the moment is my box passing drill we've been using. It's a 4-on-4 drill that builds itself up. So it starts firstly with 4 players inside the 3-point line. The ball begins with 1 defender, and for every 4 passes, we add in a defender. So we're starting to sort of get our players to start thinking about their passing, moving, talking to each other, and then we build it up, make another 4 passes, add in a 3rd defender. So this drill should build itself up now into a 4-on-4 situation for which you can go and play for a score, or maybe you're just going to do it just purely for the passing. These sorts of drills, we want to really focus on, are our players moving into space? Are they talking to their teammates? Great drills in that early part of the season when you're trying to build some team rapport and a little bit of team chemistry as well. In season, we get to that in-season part. I've played 6 games. I've got a bit of an idea about what my team's about. I've got a bit of an idea of what my players are capable of now. We've seen what the sort of oppositions we're going to start to play against in their skill level. And we can start to look a little bit deeper into okay, what does my player development look like? Are my players lacking in certain areas? You're probably going to find your players are lacking in a lot of different areas, but what's going to be really helpful for them in a 1-hour training session to really boost their ability to make an impact in the game and also get a joy out of the game as well. Team concepts, we've now got a better understanding of our team, some of our players' individual strengths as well. So now we can start to put them into those team concepts on offense, on defense. Do I have a great scorer who can dribble the ball really well and attack the basket? Do I have maybe some taller players that, I want to get closer to the ring? Or am I a team that can shoot 3-pointers really well? Maybe that's not the way we want to play. Maybe we just want to space the floor out. Same thing defensively. Are we a team that's, more suited to pressing up the floor and being aggressive, or are we best to maybe drop back and play that sort of half-court defensive style game? Finals. As I mentioned about finals, when we get to that sort of finals phase, that playoff phase, we've got a bit of an idea most of the time of not whether or not you're in that top 4. Sometimes there's that situation where you're sitting 6th or 7th and it's a really tight league. Think to yourself, are we or aren't we going to make finals? But I think as we get to the sort of back end of the season, we've done a bit of our player development work. We're hoping our players are doing their work outside of training as well. And we're 2 to 3 weeks out now from the end of the season. I like to see a real big focus on team drills, 2, 3 player, 4 player drills. Maybe we're working through our offense 4-on-4, working through our offense 5-on-0 or 5-on-5, those type of things. And we're looking at maybe our advantage, disadvantage drills. When we talk about advantage, disadvantage drills, we're thinking about those 2v1 situations, those 3v2 situations. I think sometimes as coaches, we think about those sort of drills and we think, 2v1, that's a fast break drill. 3v2, that's a fast break drill. But really, when we look at the game and the way it's played, player drives, gets past their player, they draw another player. Sometimes we're playing 2v1 in the half court in certain areas. And maybe it's a baseline drive with a defender coming from the bottom side, or maybe a defender coming down from the foul line to help. What's my other player doing? When my defender leaves me, are they cutting to the ring? Are they cutting to space? Are they standing still? It's a good one. So really want to look at those advantage, disadvantage drills, especially in the half court, and mixing up where we play those drills from. Do we start them from the foul line? Maybe we start them from the wing. Maybe we do some of our 2 and 3 player actions, our dribble handoff versus 1 defender, or our pass cut versus, two defenders versus three offensive players. Really start to bring that into the game, especially for our under 12s and under 14s and under 16s teams. I think it's really, really important. We've had some great conversations over the last couple of weeks with coaches leading into the season, and it's certainly one I get asked a lot as the coach and player development director here with the club is, how do I organize my training session? It's certainly something that came through on our Instagram when we were sort of looking for questions and things that people wanted to know a little bit more about. I like to think when I look at my training plan, and this goes with whether it's my senior programs I'm working with, my representative teams, and even with my domestic teams here with Ivanhoe, I look at my training time as money. I've got an hour of training time. That means to me, every minute is worth $1. So I've got $60 to spend every single week on my team. How am I going to spend that money effectively? I don't want to spend that money. I want to try to get some investment back from that money too, but I also don't want to waste it. I want to try and get this most value out of the money I've got. So if I'm maybe with an under 12 team and we're just going to do some partner passing, standing on the sideline, the classic, find a partner, stand on the sideline, you pass to me, I pass to you, chest passes, bounce passes, overhead passes, those types of things. Can I do more with this type of drill, or can I change this drill slightly to get more value out of it? Maybe I'm adding in a situation where I'm going to pass to my partner and I'm going to maybe run away, touch a cone, come back. Now I'm working on some movement, some cutting. Maybe I'm going to have a situation where my players are dribbling across the court and making passes to each other. Now I'm starting to add in some ball handling into this really simple drill. I'm getting a little bit more value for my money out of it. Same thing with my shooting drills. Am I going to start my shooting drills just standing and shooting? Is that going to give me a lot of value? Or maybe I'm going to introduce a little bit more to that drill. Maybe there's a dummy defender that has got their hand on the shooter, putting a little bit of pressure on them. Maybe I've got to catch the ball and do a little bit of a ball handling routine before I shoot, these type of things. Can I make my shooting drills shots that we get in a game? Maybe we're going to do dribble handoffs, no defenders, 2-VO, but we're going to say we've got to make 5 layups in a row. Then maybe I'm going to add the defender in. Then I'm going to add maybe a second defender in. I've built this drill up now from a 5-minute drill that was just shooting on its own into a 2-on-2 read and react drill to my defenders. Getting value out of our drills. What do I think? And I get asked this a lot. What's the winning drill? I always get this asked, what's the best drill? Now, what's the best drill for this? What's the best drill for that? There is no winning drill. There certainly is no drill that's best spent for any team that gets you the win on the weekend. I think it's being consistent and persistent with the way that you deliver your training session. Being consistent in what you ask of your players. If it's a cutting drill, how are we receiving the ball? Are we receiving it with one hand? Are we cutting to the ball with 2 hands? Being really consistent with our footwork. Are we coming to a 2-foot stop here? Are we coming to a 1-2 step stop here when we're going through our cutting drills? What's the shot we're taking? Is it a layup? Is it right-handed layup? Is it a left-handed layup? Am I scooping the ball, or is it an overhand off the backboard? Being really consistent and persistent with what you demand from your players is really, really important. And that helps continue to develop their understanding of the game as well. A big one on that one. For me, where would I spend my time? Where do I spend my money? And I wanted to put together something really simple for us to look at around that as well. We've got probably our 5 key age groups, our under 8s, under 10s, under 12s, under 14s, under 16s. And I'm looking at this from an overall point of view. So, we're going to have teams of varying ability. But when I look at under 8s, I think it's got to be ball handling and passing. Not all our under 8s can make the 10-foot ring, unfortunately. So spending a lot of time on shooting, while also important, isn't always going to get us a great bang for our buck. But I think ball handling and passing certainly brings more players into the game. It allows a bit more confidence with our younger players and gets them involved a bit more. Even if I'm a player who's maybe 6 or 7 years old, I can't make the ring. I can feel like I'm part of the team if I can catch and I can dribble. Love doing some advantage, disadvantage games with our kids at this age group, some 2v1, or maybe it's some one-on-one where we dribble out around a cone and the defender runs around another cone. These type of things are fantastic for that. And most of all, it's got to be fun. Put in some great games in there. Play some tunnel ball, play some dribble knockout. Get those sort of games in there as well, because kids love that sort of stuff. Under 10s, I'm still getting that focus on that ball handling, passing, shooting. Really important. I'm putting maybe a little bit more of a focus on my shooting now. A lot of my players should be able to make the ring at this age group. I want to look at how we do our layups. Is my footwork correct in this area? Am I finishing off the backboard? Am I using my left and right hand when I'm dribbling? Advantage, disadvantage is great at this age group. They love these sort of things. Our box passing drill, we're just talking about before, is a great drill for this age group. I'm starting to get a little bit more focus on defense now. Okay, can I find my player? Can I stay on my player from a man-to-man perspective? Making sure that we're very mindful that, in the EDJBA, zone is outlawed. We can't use our zone defense. So can my players start to, defend and guard their player, stay in front? Can they contain the ball? Have they got good defensive body position down low, arms nice and wide? We can add a little bit of structure here at under 10s. Have an end ball play, have a sideline play. These things are great, fun things to introduce to our kids at this age group. And when we're going to have a lot of out of bounds, we're going to have a lot of jump balls, we're going to have a lot of side balls as well. And again, straight back on it, got to have some fun. Put some fun games in there. Some of the games that we use in under 8s, don't be afraid. Our under 10s love those games just as much. Under 12s, under 14s, under 16s, I'm starting to get some offensive actions in here now. All right, we've got some fundamentals. Under 12s, I'm starting to introduce that pass and cut. I'm starting to use maybe a dribble handoff in there as well. There's some conjecture around whether or not when and where we start putting in on-ball screens. For me personally, my philosophy, I think the dribble handoff is very effective at this age group, or the dribble pitch in under 12s. It's a little bit more dynamic. I find unless I've got a player that can really screen really well, generally I'm putting a player that's not on the move next to a player who's trying to be on the move, and I'm actually adding more defenders to the equation. At this age group, I'd like to see our players either be able to dribble handoff or be able to pass and cut and move off the ball at an under 12 level. Defense has got to be a big part of this area now, really being responsible and understanding your role on defense and picking up your player. And we can certainly put a lot more structure in. Under 14s, now I'm really developing that screening action, dribble handoffs, screening away actions. Maybe I've introduced a little bit of screening away actions in under 12s. Now I'm really putting that into effect now in under 14s. Lots of advantage, disadvantage drills. Understanding the dynamics of making decisions is really, really important. I get to under 16s and I'm hoping that the coaches before me have laid a great groundwork for my players. They're understanding a lot of the actions we're talking about now. I want to really create lots of advantage, disadvantage situations. And I really want to take advantage of the skills of my players. Do I have a tall player? Do I have a great shooter? Do I have a great ball handler? All these type of things. Defensive structures, certainly in 14s and 16s, we can really start to lay some groundwork. Are we pressing up the floor? Are we playing half court? Are we playing man-to-man under the 3-point line? Which brings me, with some really simple ways we can structure our defense at this level. Talking with coaches, we were just using a really simple color matrix. Red means that we're up full court. Orange means that we're, playing a half court man-to-man. We're picking our player up at half court, and maybe blue, we're cooling off and we're picking up our player, under the 3-point line. I think they're great things to talk about. You can come out of timeouts with our kids and say, okay, we're in a red on a score, and we're in maybe an orange on a miss. These type of structures can be added in, and they can start to really think through the game a little bit more. Don't be afraid that when you see those fun games, we recently put one up on our Instagram, Builders and Bulldozers, throw a bunch of cones on the ground. The builders have got to pick them up and turn them up the right way, and the bulldozers have got to knock them down. While we use these as fun teaching tools in under 8s, I certainly have used these sort of drills in under 14s and under 16s as a warm-up. Just a great, really simple, fun warm-up to get our players moving around and a little bit competitive as well, and lots of fun. When we're putting our training plan together, spend some time, think about the things that your team needs to improve on. Think about the things that the team needs to improve on for the long-term prospects of the season. I think sometimes as coaches, we can be a little bit reactionary in the way we coach. We come out of that game on a Saturday and we think to ourselves, we didn't rebound very well today. Let's spend 20 minutes doing rebounding drills. Don't worry about those shooting drills. Let's just spend 20 minutes on rebounding because we weren't very good at that. And then, the old adage is you come around to Saturday's game and you rebound really well on Saturday, but you didn't shoot very well. We didn't really spend a lot of time on shooting. All right, well, you know what? We're going to spend a lot more time on shooting. So, and that can be a cycle as a coach where we're constantly trying to work on the things we weren't great at the week before, trying to have some really simple structures in place. Maybe you've got that 15 minutes, it's ball handling, passing, a little bit of shooting. That gets you started for your session. Maybe you start into 15 minutes of defensive work. I like doing my defensive work early in the training session, really to promote it to my players that it's an important part of what we do. And then maybe I do some offensive actions in that middle sort of 15 minutes. And then that last 15 minutes of my training session, we're looking at either advantage, disadvantage, or 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4 games. Breaking it down, those 15-minute segments. And instead of saying to myself, well, we weren't great rebounding team, we're going to do a whole bunch of rebounding. Maybe we just make it a real focal point when we're in those drills that rebounding is really important. We're in our 3-on-3 games now. Maybe I'm putting a value on rebounding. So I'm going to say every time you get an offensive rebound, it's an extra point for your team. Or if you don't allow any offensive rebounds, you get a point. These type of things. That way, now I'm not having to completely change my long-term plans and structure, but I'm actually just putting a real focus on it. Maybe my shooting drills are going to be more focused to the shooting that we didn't do a great job of on the weekends. Maybe we didn't finish very well around the basket, so we're going to do a little bit more finishing. But we're not going to change our whole outlook of training and say, well, we're going to do 15 minutes of more finishing, because I really don't believe that that's going to suddenly give you that miracle answer that you need to suddenly play well. Again, be consistent, be persistent in what you want from your players and how you structure your trainings and practices. So, Seb, we had some great questions as we've come along. Some of these certainly are taken from our recent coaching courses that we held over the school holidays period. We spoke about before about, how do I devise my time? What's some things that I'd spend a bit more time on? I think transition defense is a big one. Can I spend more time working on my players going from offense to defense? That's a really big one for me. And I think a lot of the times as coaches, we shy away from it. We're not sure how we can use the full court to do that because we're only on a half court and sharing with the team down the other end. Engage that team. Play some 2-on-2 baseline to baseline. Teaching our players to run back, turn around, point, talk. Who have they got? Who are they matching up on? Really, really important. Some defensive transition work. I think you can work both sides of the ball. We can look at how we break out into our fast break. How do we spread the floor? Get our players to run wide. Get that ball to the middle of the floor, or maybe your philosophy is to get that ball wide to the wing. These type of things are really, really important. Then for me, definitely got to spend some time on some defense. And with our defense, it doesn't have to be just that like defensive sliding, individual sliding sort of roles. It can just be playing some 2-on-2 and really putting some clamps on the offense to allow the defense to really settle in, or maybe starting our 2-on-2 with possessions in different areas rather than just starting, okay, we'll throw the ball out at the top of the 3-point line. Let's start here, just a classic 2-on-2. Maybe we move our 2-on-2 and we play it off the wing. Maybe we move our 2-on-2 and we play it with a player in each corner. These types of things. Have a little think about where and what you do from a games perspective. I'm always interested to see what our coaches come up with. We'll certainly share some more content around different types of games and 2-on-2 and 3-on-3 games that you can play with your coaches, and also ways that we like to structure our training sessions. And I think we'll get a little bit more out of our sessions as we go along. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're listening to the podcast, we really, really appreciate it. Make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe to it. Make sure you follow us so we can get you involved. Get onto our Instagram account at the Ivanhoe Knights. Certainly in the lead up to these recordings, we'll put some opportunity there for you to drop some questions in. They were fantastic, the ones that we received in the lead up to this one. And we really want to make this as interactive as possible for you. I hope it's been really, really informative. If you're out there, share it with others, share it with the basketball community. We think it's a great resource, and we want you to make sure you're getting the most out of it as well. All the best, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time for the next IKBC Coaches Huddle.
Thanks, Ollie. Good on you.
Thanks, Ollie. That was really informative.
Nah, no problem. No problem at all, guys. Appreciate you jumping on. Like I said, we just want to record that live as well. We've got some further questions. If you've got any other questions, we can certainly drop them in there as well.
Yep. So you're happy for us? Just
if you've got some other questions, guys. Yeah, well, I've got you here. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
What was the? Sorry, I missed that. What about the witch's hat upside down? What's that drill?
Oh, yeah. So our builders and bulldozers drill. Yeah, absolutely. So we throw a bunch of cones out. And the idea is that you've got one group of players that are the builders, and they've got to dribble around, keeping their dribble alive and stand all the cones upright. And you've got one group of players that have got to dribble around and knock all the cones over. It's a bit of a fun drill. You kind of give it a time limit, and then we break it down, and you give it a time limit, say 2 minutes or a minute, and then you just count up, who's got the most knocked down or who's got the most standing up, and then you just switch the teams. So we switch them into a sort of a builders and bulldozers sort of action there. It's one that we do with under eights. I certainly have done with my older ones, and they love it. So it's just a good way just to get competitive nice and early in training.
So are they going around the court at the same time? Are they?
Yeah. So all dribbling around. Yep. All dribbling around at the same time. And there's stuff, if you jump on our YouTube channel at Ivanhoe Knights, we've got a video of it up there as well. So you can get a bit of a look at it. So we do it with our, like I said, it's certainly a drill that stemmed from like our little Knights and our under eights, but I've done it with men and men's teams, and they love it too. I think it's just how you put it as a competitive drill, and I think if you make it competitive, kids love it.
I think the interesting thing I found last season was, particularly towards the end, I did find that the girls were looking for, like in the end, I was sort of saying to them, hey, what do you want to do? What's fun to do? And we were looking for things that they could just have a bit of fun with. So
yeah, that's the stuff's great. I mean, we'll try and share a little bit more of that, but try to keep it as competitive as possible. And I think that's great, Michael. I think it's great that you're reaching out and asking them what they want to do too. Getting they're there for fun. It's really really important.
Yep. But it's also hopefully just developing their, I suppose, initiative and leadership. Suggestions, isn't it?
Oh, I love that. I think it's refreshing. I know most people, when I grew up, I wouldn't have said boo to my head coach. And now I think there's definitely our players are more comfortable talking to our coaches, and our coaches should be more comfortable talking to our players, asking them what worked or asking them what went well. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. And sorry, anyone else got a question? I've got another question.
Fire in, mate. You're all right. You've got the floor.
Keep going. Yeah.
No worries. So in that comment that you said earlier before about the zoning, that's only for the younger age groups, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. For under 16s, that's fine sort of type thing still, isn't it? So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's for under 16s. You can zone. I like to try to mix it up a little bit. I understand that it's at times can feel easier to zone. For some coaches, I'm just always concerned as to whether our players love playing zone. As well, because they can feel a little stagnant, but for some teams I think it's good to mix it up and play a little zone at times with the older age groups.
I suppose I'm interested in that thought around which is better for their development in terms of Like we did do quite a bit of zoning last season, and
Yep.
I started sort of pondering, like, as still learning the game as a coach, but yeah, what is better for their development?
Look,
So,
I think if you are teaching man to man, zone is definitely easier to play.
yeah,
I think if you're, if you're not teaching any defense and then coming on a Saturday and saying, let's zone up,
Yeah.
I don't know whether our players understand how to guard their space, because either way, in
Mm.
man to man and zone, you've got to guard a space.
and I think that, like, yeah, like, so what I've done is to focus on the drills, because I remember your previous training sessions, which I found really helpful, was where you emphasize like the 1-on-1, the 2-on-2, the 3-on-3, and
Yep.
2-on-3, and all that sort of thing. So we tend to do a lot of that practicing,
Perfect.
and so they practice that sort of tight defense, and then use the zone. Then use the zone sort of once they've got that idea that they have to stay tight. So
Yes, yeah, I think that's great. Absolutely. And you can reinforce those principles totally. I think there's always going to be an element of a game when I'm always concerned if you're playing a lot of zone, there's always going to be an element of a game where you need to chase it. So, you're down, I don't know, down 8 with 4 minutes to go. If you sit tight in a zone, can you affect the change needed in time, or can that team just hold the ball and watch you stand there in a zone? So there's always going to be a time at some point in the game where you want to play some man-to-man, and are your players ready to do that? And I certainly notice when teams that are always in zone, when it comes to chasing a game, they don't always have the ability to do that.
Oh, okay. I see it, man, because they don't have the mentality to be
Yeah,
able to
they don't have that aggressive mentality of, I've got to find a player now. Like the game, we're 2 minutes to go, let's say, and I've got to find a player now. And maybe if we played a little bit of man-to-man from time to time, and maybe it's something that you just pick your spots. You go, okay, well, for the first 5 minutes of this game, we're going to play man-to-man defense, and I'm going to see what it looks like. And, if the opposition's really getting it to us, maybe we'll jump back into that zone, or maybe we'll leave it on. And then maybe we'll just say, all right, after 5 minutes, we can reassess that, time out. Let's go and play some zone now. And then that way they're at least getting a little bit of exposure to it. So if you need to go back to it, they're ready for it.
And to a certain extent, is some of the point, is it better to do a bit more of the man-on-man, in particular during grading? Because in a way you want to learn about your players, don't you?
I think so. I think grading's it's such a funny concept to me when I think about grading. I'm used to just playing in leagues where you're in your league. But I think, grading for me is, you want to find out what your players are like. Obviously, everybody wants to try to grade as high as they can. But I think there's also an element with grading where a lot of the time, as you guys as coaches, you've got 4 or 5 new players. They haven't played together. So you don't put too much pressure on yourself for wins and losses, especially in that first 2 or 3 weeks, because you can play a really good team, or you could play, or your team hasn't really got themselves together. I've certainly seen teams that have gone through grading and had a nightmare. Best way to describe it, had an absolute nightmare. And then the coach gives me a call and says, oh, we're in real trouble here. Oh, we've really struggled. And it's like, well, actually, it's just because now after week 5, they look great. Maybe took a little bit more time to come together.
And that's what happened to us last season. We were 2-6 and then didn't drop a game after that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a classic example. Yeah, classic example. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Sorry, if anyone else got questions, sorry.
No, all good, mate. Thank you very much. Great session, Ollie. Thank you.
Nah, no problem at all, guys. I'll try and put these on when I can, at a time where people can listen in and ask some questions at the back end, where possible. Some of the time, if it's an interview or whatever with someone, I might have to do it at a different time. But I really appreciate you guys jumping in, and we'll get and share this out where we can as well.
Appreciate it.
Ollie, was there any recording of the sessions last week? Was it last or the previous week?
We're not actually allowed to record the Basketball Victoria stuff, but I know that coming up, we're going to be doing some stuff in conjunction with Banyule again, as we did last season. So we're going to do a couple of in-person clinics that we'll also record. We're going to do one on finishing. I think that's on the 17th of October, and we'll do another one on the 24th of October around shooting and shooting mechanics as well. So I might get some maybe see if I can get another guest coach to come in and help me out with one of them. But we'll get some coaches in there, but we'll record those. Basketball Victoria doesn't love us recording the coaching courses. I think they're worried that everyone will share them, and then no one will go to the coaching course.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and it's good because then if I've said anything really bad in those coaching courses, no one gets to know about it, and I can lie my way through them. But I think they're pretty good anyway. But I'll try and share. I have got the documentation from the coaching course. I can share it. It's not great because it's mainly just wording, so it's not a lot of diagrams in there. But I will share it out with club as well. So there's some stuff that you can have a look at as well.
Yep.
All right, crew, I'm going to leave you guys to it. If you're off to training tonight, have a good training session. If you're not, have a great game on Saturday.
Thanks, mate.
Awesome.
Thanks,
See ya.
Ollie.
See ya.